All right. All right. I'd like to welcome Rich Stearns here. Thank you very much, Rich, for doing this. Really appreciate that, and look forward to your talk.
All right.
Thank you.
So I was asked a speed seminar on the 109. Well, I sailed the 109 once last summer. It was very fun. I've always loved the 109. So you can, probably some questions are going to be good, but there's basically speed in any sailboat, in my opinion, unless you're at the World's Championship and you've sailed this boat for 20 years, what you're really trying to do is not to lose. Now that sounds terrible, but people lose races all the time. Very few people actually win them. You just wait till the other guy makes a mistake and he loses. So, there are a couple things you can do even before the race to keep yourself from kind of being dumb. Obviously, washing your bottom. There's all kinds of things that you can do. If you think you're going to sail a sailboat race without the bottom washed every week, you're somewhere in La La Land, because that doesn't happen. But at any rate, before the start, it's funny, I get on all kinds of people's boats, and they've got all these electronics, Jimmy, and they know how to turn them on, and that's about it. I'm like, oh, now these are great, they're very pretty, and they make all kinds of beautiful displays. How do you work that? I don't know. Really? Well, so at any rate, I actually brought a Pro Start and a Velocitech onto their boat because they weren't really sure how their instruments work. They're really nice, and you have a lot of people like that here. So at any rate, your instrument needs to, doesn't have to, it needs to now be able to ping each end of the line, because they're very accurate. So these Velocitechs, where you go by the pin and you push a button, you go by the committee boat flag and you push the button, it's a GPS, it tells you exactly where the line is. Being off the starting line is absolutely no excuse anymore, because it's not even, it's $800 for this thing, this instrument, and it is unbelievably accurate. It counts down in meters how far you're away from the starting line. And so the sag of the starting line is not an excuse anymore. And if you don't have one, your instruments probably do it. You just don't know how to do it. So maybe you should read about it.
Good point.
There you go, see? So you don't have to have a guy come along with a little teeny instrument. You got all these instruments, stick it on your boat and have it work. Anyway, so you need these things nowadays because everybody else is going to have it. Starting in the center line is a good spot, except that if there's a sag and you're 2 boat lengths behind, it doesn't help you. So that's the first thing I would say. The next thing is, before the race, go upwind. All of your instruments can keep track of where the shifts are. It's just, again, people don't know how to do it. So you get one of these Race Master tactic things, and you go up on one attack, you push a button, it spins itself, it tells you to tack. Now it knows exactly where you're tacking. So when you start the race, you know if you're on a lift or knock. You can't go sailboat racing not knowing if you're not on a lift or a knock. Doesn't work. The same thing holds true with these instruments downwind. It will tell you how wide your jibing angle is. Let's just say before the race, you're going to go upwind, you're going to set your tactic, or whatever, your instrument, so it knows which tack is on, you are, which favored. You're going to put the spinnaker up. Always put your spinnaker up before the beginning of the race. 2 reasons. First of all, there's a chance that you or your crew were drunk and they hooked it up wrong. So, now I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it does happen. And second of all, especially if it's windy, put it up, because everybody's a little nervous when they're going out there and it's windy, and they're going, oh, what's it going to be like? When you put it up, everybody goes, oh, that was fine. Do a jibe, take it down, get ready to go sailing. And nobody's ever packs a chute on asymmetrical boats anymore. Take it down nicely, put it down below, you're ready to go sailing. But put it up and put it down before the race. There's, again, no excuse not to do that. One of the reasons is upwind, you're getting the tacking angles. Downwind, if you notice those compasses, they'll tell you how far off the wind you are. So you'll get a number like 40, or 46, or 50. If it starts saying 50, that means you got a lift and you better get on the other tack. So those instruments tell you both up and downwind, and for some reason, people don't think downwind shifts are important. I don't know why, but everybody seems to just think it's fine to sail downwind without knowing which direction they're going. So before the race, again, go upwind, set a chute, go downwind, get everything ready, figure out where your tacking angles, jibing angles, and figure out how fast you're going on a jibe. So one of the things later in the race you're going to need to know is you're going to come around the weather mark, and you're in first place. Don't go too slow, don't go too fast, get to be going the speed you think you're going to be going. So maybe even keep a notebook in 10 knots a breeze. I usually go 6.1 downwind. So at least you know the ball game of where you should be sailing downwind. The other thing is when you're jibing, and this is getting way ahead of it, but you need a good speedo because as you jibe, you go into the jibe fast, you come out of the jibe fast, you got to get back up to speed. So at any rate, the last thing to do, you ping both ends of the line so you know exactly where it is. I would time it. I'd figure how long this line is, how long it takes you to get down the line. A lot of people, 109s haven't done it a lot in the past, but a lot of little boats and even 109s sail around without your jib out a lot, okay? And there's no reason really to pull your jib out until a minute and a half or 2 minutes to go to the starting line anyways. You already set up where your jib leads are and everything before the race, so you don't really have to do that. Maybe even mark how trimmed it is. But know how long the starting line is going to take you to get down. So when you do start timing your way back the line, you kind of know how long, you get an idea of what's, where you're going to be. So at any rate, any questions so far? That was pretty basic stuff. One of the reasons you go basic, especially this time of year, Arvid Island, who owns the Far 40 Bandit, used to own a T10 called Wild Norwegian. He has my book and he goes, Rich, I know everything in your book. I read it every year because he goes, I know everything. I just need somebody to tell me it again. I'm like, that makes sort of sense. You just sort of over the wintertime, you kind of forget everything. So at any rate, again, when you start the race, your crew, even though it's fun to talk about the girls they were with last night or the boys they were with last night, really should be looking up the race course. And there's a couple of games you can play as a crew. You're looking obviously for darker water. Darker water very often trumps wind shifts, okay? You can have a 5 or 10 degree wind shift, and you have more air over there, you're gonna get a 4 or 5 degree lift anyways, and the more air. The crew ought to be looking up the course. Now, one thing the crew can do is they can bet amongst themselves, put some money down on it. Is the shift a lift or knock? So you think, well, if a skipper just can't look out, he sees the puff. But a crew actually, if they just stand there instead of drinking beer, talking about what was going on last night, they can watch that piece, that black thing move in the water. And I'll bet you can get up to 75% accurate if it's going to be a lift or knock by watching the way that thing's moving. That means you have to watch it and actually be part of the race if you're a crew. But you look up there and just don't go, oh, I think it's a knot. You just watch it and go, that really is moving that way. I think it's instead of coming right down at me, it's going this way across my bow. I think it's going to be a lift. If you start doing that, you get better at it. And if you're up to 65%, it's worth doing. At least you're looking out there and finding the darker water. So anyway, look up the course and try to get don't just let the back of the boat thing. The other thing is don't be always screaming at the back of the boat, I think this, I think that. Just nice comments. I mean, a lot of people like people that crew to say, oh, there's a wave. Really? There's 1,000 waves out here. I don't need to know every single wave. So as far as speed goes, I'm talking about waves. When you're steering any boat, especially J boats though, and 109s, a good boat steers itself over waves. You are guiding this boat, okay? You are not steering this boat, you're guiding it. If you steer it, you're wiggling, you're letting the rudder go all over the place. I would lock it on my leg, okay? So it can't move, because the rudder of your boat is a lifting surface, okay? It is taking you to weather. If you just let it flail in the wind, it doesn't lift the boat. So lock it in. I mean, the best thing, sometimes examples are the best. And I can tell you the best example ever in my life, and will never be a better one, is we were doing the America's Cup with Buddy Melgus, and we started, and we were ahead of Tom Blackwell and the San Francisco guys, and he started chomping underneath us, and Buddy, believe me, he has a mouth, boat, I'm not steering this boat anymore, and he starts swearing, he just goes, he just stands there, and all of a sudden the boat goes, sailed away from the other boat. We're like, okay, now we won't steer this anymore. And that's a big fat 12 meter with a little teeny rudder. Big difference. So, definitely you want to just guide the boat. Don't, every wave, no. The boat will lift itself right over that wave just fine. You need a little more speed, come down. A little more height, come up. But don't go every single wave trying to figure out what's going to do. The boat will take care of itself. Any other questions so far? Oh, we're going fast. The biggest mistake people do is over trimming their sails. Guaranteed. Anytime you close a couple things happen. If you get older sails, an older jib goes tubular at the top, okay? And if you over trim it, it shuts the leach down and you're dead. Jibs, if you're collecting sails, because you have a limit of sails, always buy jibs. Jibs are what makes the boat go. Mainsails don't make the boat go, jibs make the boat go. If you don't have a good jib, you cannot win. It's impossible. Okay, so just, and if you've got don't use your good jib at the beer can, don't use your good jib if it's blowing hard, don't use your good jib until the big regatta, because you'll wreck it. You can wreck a jib in 2 hours. Go out in 30 knots of breeze, shake it. It's a sailmaker's wet dream, is when you go to the starting line and you shake your sail. Oh God. It's kind of like the guy driving a spinnaker that puts it upside down and leaves it there. Oh, sailmakers dream about that. Like, oh my God, this is great. He's going to order one next week.
Some dollar signs.
Yeah, and it's like, are you kidding me? Look what he's doing. It's wonderful. So, I mean, you could sail the boat almost forever if you didn't tack the boat and you didn't shake the sails. I mean, they just murdered the boat. Your battens are going in there, banging in there. It's so do be a little careful about that. So anyway, when you're sailing, over trim the jib. Don't over trim the jib. If you're going slow, let it out. You're almost always over trimmed. I mean, not always, but I would say 85% of the time you're over trimmed. Let it out. Go fast. People, when they're steering, used to come up to me all the time. I'm not pointing when I was a sailmaker. I'm not pointing. I can't point with your sail. I can't point. The answer to that is foot. What? Foot. Get out there and go fast, because the boat, the keel and the rudder and actually the hull shape will make your boat go to weather. If you're not going fast, you slide to leeward and it looks like you're not pointing. You're pointing, you're just not going fast enough to get lift from the keel and the rudder. Again, off on another tangent, if you've understood a mark, okay? Let's just say you've tacked and you had the perfect ley line, but it wasn't. Keep the boat going fast at the mark. When you're half a boat length away from the mark, shoot at the mark. Don't be one of these guys that tries to make it the whole time, because you will just slide to the side. You go fast at it, fast at it, fast at it, and at the last second you shoot at it, because then you wouldn't have lost that extra boat length. You always keep the boat going. There's no excuse for either pinching to a weather mark or deadheading to a leeward mark. Neither one of them are going to cut it in any boat. So one of the other things, speed-wise, this is going to be like the dumbest thing in the world. You cannot sail in bad air. People go, oh, it's just for just a little while, I want to get over the lake. You cannot sail in bad air. Well, no, but it's only, you really can't sail in bad air. There's no reason. I mean, my dad, he gets totally freaked out, if he's even close to bad air. Almost to an extent where you go, this is a little weird now. The guy's he's pretty far away up there. Tacks. It doesn't matter how far away that boat is. He thinks he's on his air. He's gone. And so at any rate, if you're in the middle of the fleet, the chances are you got somebody up here on you and you go, oh, you can rationalize to yourself, he's on the ley line. If I tack, I'm going to have to go above him. So I'm going to hang here for another quarter mile because it's okay. And I'll foot off a little, try to get out. Tack, get out of his bad air. Okay? All right. So at any rate, anybody have any questions about anything so far?
We'll have some.
All right. So anyway, when you're tacking, so I watch people tack, jive and tack, what I think is the wrong way. This doesn't mean it's the right way, it's the way I think you should do it. When you're tacking, you want to go ready about, one person gets off the rail, and that's a jib trimmer. I don't want everybody getting off the rail, okay? Because you need to keep your speed up. If you go into a tack fast, you'll come out of your tack fast. If you go into your tack a quarter knot slow, you'll come out of your tack over a half knot slower. It's that bad. You just kill yourself. So ready about, your one person gets off the rail. So how the tack goes is you're gonna go nice and slow. Your object is to get to the weather mark, right? So anytime you can point right at the weather mark, it's pretty good, by the way. So you're pointing over here. You wanna go ready about, so now you're gonna go slowly, and this accelerates air over your sails. There's no reason to let your sail out now, but slowly so you're getting good VMG up to where your jib backs, okay? Now is when you let the jib off. At this point, you want to go a little faster. Get the boat through the wind. You don't want the wave stopping. So you're nice and slow, jib backs, release it, come a little bit faster, and then stop the boat early. So you're gonna need a telltale in your stays. Because how do you know where to stop the boat early? So you want to stop the boat when the jib is tailing straight back to the lead, not all the way tacked. Now just for a second, so you're gonna go slow, fast, stop, down. What that does, in 109, there's no, if a crew of yours in any wind is using more than one crank on that jib, he's doing a bad job. Okay, one crank. And that's a lot. I'd say a half a crank should get it in. Because you need to give him that second, right when it's tailing back at that lead, to pop it in. There's no strain on that sail. Then you lay into it. You probably didn't get it all the way, but close, maybe this far away. You lay into it, fill it up, get going, and he does the final trim and off you go. Don't do the fast tack over too far. Now the jib's way out here. He's struggling the whole time to get it back in. You keep giving him a hard time because you are sailing now to the jib, which is too far out. So you're just sailing off the course. There's no reason to do that. So it's a 3-part tack, slow, fairly fast. Again, fairly fast. You never want to push the rudder through the water. You're guiding the boat. You're going to guide the boat through the tack. So you're going to let it go up. The boat naturally wants to go up because it's got a little helm to it. You have to push it a little more. And then as soon as the jib go a little more